and welcome to New Meta episode 68. Today we're back talking about a couple of famous DotA heroes, OD and SF, Outworld, Devourer and Shadow Fiend, among other things, including the current patch and the state of the game and the recent changes and all that. Joining me, Marco, welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
How have your games been?
Didn't go too well tonight. In recent times, games have been good generally. Maybe we'll talk about it more, but I feel like games have been really good fun since the new mini patch.
Yeah. Likewise, Adam. Welcome to the pods. How have your games been? Any games sticking in your memory?
I've climbed out of the trench that was, I think I lost 13 out of 14 games. So,
wow.
Turn that back around. I know that last pod I was pretty sad.
Yeah, we were all sad.
Yeah, and it kept going. It kept getting worse before it got better. But now it's like any other normal week of Dota. Winning some, losing some. I got the Ogre Arcana, so that's fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
Played a Kunkka game. That was probably the most memorable one because I got the Ags, and that seemed... Torrent Storm is like just the silliest thing.
It's actually so ridiculous. I remember playing a Kunkka with Marco in a game, and I got it right when it was ending, so we didn't really get the full effect. But it's actually bonkers. It's so bonkers with the Torrent AOE talent. It's just dumb.
Yeah, that's what I got. The Torrent AOE at 20 and the Ags, and it was like pretty standard. Double Bracer Phase, Radiance. I got a Heaven's Halberd and then an Ags. And,
nice.
Yeah, it was just like, how is anyone supposed to deal with this? There's no counterplay for it outside of BKB. You just run in and press, the Torrent Storm button, and then just, you have no way of knowing where it's going to go. There's so many of them, and they're so large from the talent that you're going to hit everyone. And all I had to do was make sure that Rubik didn't steal it, and that was it. It's like, they had a Clink, so you wanted to fight around stuff. I'm like, well, that's perfect. I'll just run in and Torrent Storm, and then everything will be in the air.
And
then like Ghost Ship Fleet on top of that, and yeah, it's just.
I think it like lags the game. At least when I did it, it was like lagging the game. I did Ghost Ship Fleet with Torrent Storm, and the game sort of died.
Yeah, and then you can do your own Torrent on top of it, and then like X. It's just like so much to contend with, and. I haven't seen it in a pro game, but I feel like I'd be kind of worried for how it would do in a pro game because of how random it is. Of course, pros by BKB, but at the same time, there's going to be a point in the game where BKBs are low, and it's like, how do you counterplay against... You're just supposed to leave the area, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see it built in a pro game. I wonder where they'd fit it in, because Kunkka... I'd say he can be quite rigid in his item builds, because you often want to get a Radiance... And then you often have to get a BKB, and you really want a Halberd, say. So it's quite... I can't see a Kunkka rushing Ags, because it's just too gimmicky. Do you know what I mean?
It was like it was an unranked game. Like I definitely was going to go Radiance, got that at a good time. And then they had a troll, so I was like, I'm going Halberd, because few things are more pleasurable than Halberding a troll while he's ulted. So
beautiful.
Did that, and then it's like, oh, I'm just going to delay BKB for as long as possible because I want to have fun. And it's like, I'll just get this other 4.2k item, this Ags. Yeah. That definitely made the game a lot of fun because we just had this like sustained. We had like a 15-minute long siege because I would just X marks people, they TP back, bring them back in, you just cut off the whole map. I have so much sustain because the Sange is buffing the talent region at 15, and then just like siege. Oh, you're going to push into me. I have Torrent Storm. Okay, now you're going to push me. I have Ghost Ship. Like, just it was wonderful.
My games, I don't really have any in particular that stand out, other than breaking Adam's loss streak with an incredible Phantom Lancer performance. That's the only thing that really comes to mind. And honestly, playing carry might have to be the way. It's not disappointed me yet, really. Pos 1's just too good.
You have so many complaints about carries in your game, you just have to be the carry.
Exactly, yeah. Less often am I disappointed with my mid. When I play carry, my mid just does whatever. And I'm like, fine.
I will say from that game, Batrider with a ninja gear, that's scary.
Yeah.
Like, Batriders with personal smokes all the time? Like, what?
Yeah, that was genuinely terrifying. Tell you what else was terrifying. Having an LC on your team that didn't cancel a single Flaming Lasso all game with W. That's scary as well, to be fair.
Even with the 25 AoE.
Yeah, you don't even have to actually click the hero.
No incidental cancels.
I was like, LC, just stay behind me. I'm like a level 30 PL. If you just don't let me get lassoed into a chrono, we're going to be fine. And LC's like, but neutral items, come on, bro. Please. So yeah, that was good to get the win there. Marco mentioned, and I suppose Adam continued, the trend of better games overall. And that sort of takes us into our next mini intro topic, which is sort of the state of the game. And the changes in 7.23e that I think in all of our views have actually had a surprisingly strong and positive impact on the game. Of course, somewhat anecdotal evidence being that we haven't played tons and tons of games, but nevertheless, the games we have played have felt, I would say, significantly better. So worth spending a little bit of time on what those changes were and how they've improved the game, really. The three general changes were Outpost XP is now every 10 minutes instead of every 5 minutes, and removed the 2 non-Roshan shrines. And the initial delay on shrines is up to 7 minutes now. It used to be from 5.
But then it has a lower cooldown.
Yes, lower cooldown. And all XP talents are gone, which is obviously more hero-specific, but along the trend of let's not have crazy accelerated XP with Outpost and XP talents and all the rest of it.
It was funny. I was listening kind of coincidentally to the first pod we did a couple of days ago. I was on Spotify and the first one came up, and Adam was talking about talents because it was about the position 4, talking about GPM and XP talents, and Adam making the prophecy comment of, oh, if anything, it's going to follow the route of, oh, what had just been removed. Oh, it was the respawn timer talents.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
XBP talents are going to take the same route as that. And nearly a year later, that has happened.
Prophecy?
Has anyone ever seen Ice Frog and Come Dine with me in the same route?
Oh, I know, man.
I don't think I have.
No, because if that was true, Invoker wouldn't be in the game.
That's true, yeah. That's for sure, yeah. That's the fail-safe. I think I'm innocent as well on those grounds. So, yeah. Actually, let's start with the top, I suppose. So, Outpost going from 5 minutes to 10. This is a welcome change, in my view, because the thing I like about Outpost is having an extra area on the map where you can TP to and where like fights can take place, but not forced fights. And the thing that was forcing them was every 5 minutes there was quite a significant amount of XP being battled for. And so I like the fact that they're just there and you can TP to them, but I don't like the fact that you're forced to fight around them every 5 minutes. So the fact that it's now every 10 is just welcome to me. There's less chores. I know I've said that it feels like a chore.
Yeah.
So now it's just that aspect of it's been halved, literally.
Yeah, I really agree with the point of another place on the map to fight, and the map mobility I've mentioned, it stretches the area of the game that you can play in. There's more potential for movement because you can TP to this new objective. But yeah, I definitely agree that 10 minutes instead of 5, and that is a dramatic change. It's only one bullet point, but how the game flow changes is massive. I think it really helps teams which are ahead not get further ahead so quickly, because if you've got a bit of an advantage, and even that be at 15 minutes in the game, you're getting so much benefit if the shrines are then reset in 5 minutes, because it's so much easier for you as the leading team to reconsolidate after 3 minutes and then prep for 2 shrines again the 4th minute later. And the snowball is just so easy. But now with a 10-minute gap, the game the pace of it is just that bit slower, and it's less punishing to not have got the shrine. So the losing team isn't going to get behind as fast, and so it just makes for way more pleasant games, because no longer if you're behind at 20 minutes, it's not like, okay, GG by 30. You've got way better fighting chance to claw your way back in, because the leading team just doesn't get this stupid bonus every 5 minutes now. But then, yeah, like you say, still got more interesting places on the map to fight around and to move to, teleport to. So I think it's such a good change.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Also, yeah, the second line is probably overlooked as to how, not helpful, but big an impact it is on the nature of the game as well. So with removing the Russian shrines, so
the Russian shrine,
the Roshan shrines. It's annoying in some games when Rosh. We call him Rosh, all right. We've had this conversation before. Then there's an AN on the end, so it's Roshan.
Yep.
Roshan and the Eggers.
It proper messes you up when you think there's going to be a shrine there and there's not. That takes a bit of recalibrating. But I think for the flow of the game again, I don't know if... I'm trying to think where they are, but I feel like don't like a team's might overextend, or they would get less punished because now there's a shrine that you can't TP respond to. It's harder to get out on the map. It's harder to get out the map as much as fast because you've got one less outlet to say TP to or to play around or fight around. So I feel like it reduces the flow of the game.
It's got positives and negatives. Like I really dislike them being gone from a TP and out standpoint, but it does open up like plays for you to smoke into their jungle and get picks without, 4-man TP the shrine type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get less use of shrine for you and your team, so that kind of is slowing your game down again because you can't just reset full HP heal. So those two changes definitely slow the pace down a little bit, and I just think it makes for a more interesting game now.
It's weird that it's asymmetric. Well, I mean, it makes sense that, you keep both shrines that are close to Roshan, but it's like, it's helping out Dire off lane and then Radiant safe lane.
Yeah, that's weird.
Or, sorry, I've flipped
the other way around.
It's helping out Radiant off lane and Dire safe lane in the, with the shrine placement. So it's like, it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like off lane was always the one that got the most use out of that first shrine.
Yes.
But I don't know. Maybe later in the game, it's better to have it for the Dire. I don't know.
I really like the asymmetrical nature of that. I like that dynamic so long as it's balanced. So nobody wants a situation where Radiant or Dire has a significant win rate advantage over the other, like has been the case in the past. As long as those two things are like roughly 50-50, then I'm all for having, within reason, an asymmetrical map. Yeah. I quite like if I'm imagining watching TI10 or whatever, and how you play on Dire is actually markedly different to how you play on Radiant because of something like shrine location. I quite like that just because I'm like a Dota nerd and it's like an extra layer of interest and it creates room for creativity about how to approach these changes. So I quite like that.
Dire offlane remains very difficult though without no shrine, right? Now it's even tougher. Yeah. Dire offlane's always typically been just the saddest place to be. And it is further maintained, but it does, since it is asymmetric, it does place, especially once the Radiant safe lane tower is gone, it puts a ton of pressure on that outpost. Like, that is the only way of getting down there for either team.
Yeah. I like that as well. I mean, it's interesting.
I mean, I like the outposts from a mobility standpoint for sure. And now that they're not just like a
XP chore.
XP, yeah. And like what you guys were saying, that every 10 minutes makes the game flow way better. Like, just, you're not constantly having to like police your movements around the 5 minute, like every 5 minutes is just, there's only so many things you can fit in, you know?
Another interesting aspect to the shrines is the delay going from 5 to 7. That's big I think from a laning perspective, it makes lanes more punishing. If you're losing your lane, or if you take a trade near 5 minutes, oftentimes you'll wait for that shrine to turn on at 5. And now that there's only 1, and it doesn't even come on until 7, it means that certainly from the mid lane, now rather than, say, stacking a camp on your way to the shrine, waiting for it to turn on at 5, now that's turned into a walk back to base and a TP out again. And similar things can be said, I suppose, from Radiant safe lane and Dire off lane.
Well, 5 is like when what you buy your region naturally kind of runs out around 5 anyways. So it's like, I don't need to buy more. I don't need to bring out more. I always can pop by and hit that 5-minute shrine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was just saying that. Now, I was just thinking that, like, it means you buy regen more, which the courier changes have allowed that to be the case. So it's kind of fine because anyone can buy regen all the time. They don't have to wait for courier. So I think those changes sort of complement each other a little bit. And then XP talents, these are kind of hero-specific talents. So I don't think, if I'm right in thinking, none of them are crazy. There are no crazy talents. I know Shadow Demon got 100 cast range, which is quite nice because 100 cast range, Shadow Demon obviously loves that.
Pudge got 5 armor at 10, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Is there any others coming to mind? Tusk got 10 health regen at 10, which is obviously a lot. But you often build tranks on this guy anyway, and the other talent is GPM.
And none of them are like good enough to replace the XP, is the thing.
No, I don't think
so. The
so.
XP was so good.
It's definitely nerfs to all of them.
10 strength on Abaddon. I guess that's good on like core Abaddon, maybe. 30 damage on Beastmaster's fine at 10. That's pretty solid. But it's like, Dazzle getting 2 mana regen instead of 30 XP or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's
something
grim.
Big is like,
that's
it's
super
just
grim.
Real sad. Or same with Keeper, 6 spell amp. It's meh.
With that said, Marco, I'll go over to you for your favourite segment of the pod, which is Void Spirit Corner. Because Void Spirit's strength gain has been reduced from 2.8 to 2.6, his base armor reduced by 1. More importantly, Astral Step charge restore time increased by 5 seconds at each level. So now at level 3, it's 20 seconds restore rather than 15, and the mana cost has been increased to a flat 100. This, judging by the stats, has hurt your favourite hero quite a lot. I don't know if you want to elaborate on why that change is so painful.
Well, is he below 50% win rate?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's quite extreme.
Really?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm surprised.
I mean, so in the days of when I played him, in like the last week or two, it always felt like his HP pool and armor, particularly given he's a strength, an int hero, was always surprisingly high. So it felt like you couldn't get bullied in lane, and then you've got your E to give you more physical tank ability. So the armor nerf is definitely most significant, and then the little bit of strength going down. And then, just for the ult, it's like the talent. This ult just lets you do so much work because you can't die, or it makes it very hard to die, and then all your spells will back up at 10 seconds later. So shafting the restore time is definitely like the critical way you can get at this hero. Like, you can reduce the damage of all these other spells, say, but ultimately it's the ultimate ability that makes this guy so potent in skirmishes in the mid game and the late game. So it feels pretty bad.
His ult is the X Factor spell. Like, it enables the hero to no end. None of his other spells are enabled that hard. Void Spirit was at 54% win rate pre-patch. That dropped to 47% win rate post-nerf. That's recovered to 48.1. So that's the current win rate, 48.1%. I don't know how that differs across skill brackets. I can only assume it will be higher at the higher levels, I would imagine. But I don't know if it's 50%. I can only speculate on that.
I also think there's a more understanding of how to stop the hero now, and it's probably still a very early picked hero because the hype and wanting to play it, but then enemy teams are going to be more aware of, okay, let's get our roots, let's get our leashes, and just have figured out what the hero does a bit more. So maybe you would adjust your play style a bit more, and all that comes together to knock its win rate down.
I think he's definitely counter-pickable, but can you guys think of, well, I guess there are heroes like this that exist, but man, if he's a last pick, some lineups just feel like I can't do anything against him.
Yeah. I can
maybe
imagine
not
so.
like last pick Meepo, maybe last pick Husker or something back in the old days, but I feel like it's really tough to even itemize effectively against him. Like maybe you don't even have the heroes, but like sometimes you can itemize. It's like for him, especially if he goes Yules, it's tough.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can itemize effectively against him. He's just hero that is countered by spells, not particularly items, because he's got such good escape with his ult that it's not even like if you buy a BKB to counter his magic damage, it just disengages.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
you just have to have stuns to lock him down.
Yeah.
Or better, you have roots, leashes, and
yeah,
you have to take away his ability and his no fear attitude of just diving into fights.
Yeah, I definitely say so. Final word on Void Spirit in Void Spirit Corner is, I also feel like the Maelstrom build, last time we touched on Void Spirit, is, I think, definitely falling away a bit more. I'm seeing more like Kaya, Yasha, like looking towards like Octarine Core kind of thing, and even Radiance coming back a bit. I feel like I'm seeing less of this Maelstrom into Mjolnir.
Yeah, I think with the changes to just the power and the strength of this hero, that he's been weakened, and that to me makes him less optimal as a pure damage dealing semi carry hero. And because he's now fundamentally weaker, it's like, okay, change his role to be a bit more utility-esque, and now let's another hero, another position, bring in more damage to your team, hence go for the Yules, hence go for the Octarine. That's another way I see the shift.
Yeah, the Octarine lets you move around basically like pre-nerf, so that's good. But I think watching that, like, you know, I've watched Gork play it a little bit. It goes like early Yules, and then you just jump in, Yules somebody in the air, and then remnant them out of the Yules falling, and it's just like a kill every time. And then you rinse, repeat it. Like it's
undodgeable. You know, you can't even like puck phase shift, or I don't even believe you can BKB. I might be wrong about that actually, because I think you can BKB out of Yules.
Yeah, I feel like you can when you start.
Because you think of like Jakiro, you can BKB out of that. Anyway.
So maybe 3 Ember. Or 3 Void Spirit.
Possibly. It's been built.
Yep.
It's certainly been built. That's basically the talk on the patch, I suppose. We're all pretty much in agreement that this is the best iteration of 7.23, and the changes Ice Frog's making are positive overall, certainly, and trying to iron out some of those sort of extreme consequences that the initial changes had in Outlanders.
Also, there wasn't anything in this mini patch, but all these little neutral item changes that have happened, in particular with the rate that you can get them and the number you can get them, that's definitely made the game state better. And I think it's intentional.
And the removal of some of them.
Yeah, but it's probably intentional. Like someone on Reddit said, oh, they're just mining data by having built a million neutral items when the patch first released, and then over time smooth it out, and now it's this much more reasonable level of involvement in the game. And so I think it is now a nice point.
I think that's giving Valve's too much credit, you know, as if they have enough like employees working on Dota to like mine data. They just have like Frog and like the janitor working on it. There's no data mining going on. Let's move on to Outworld Devourer. This hero, I said at the end of last episode, I wanted to talk about it because I don't really know what's up with OD. The hero's changed, but has it actually changed? It's still good, but was it ever good? And is it still good now? Some people have solid answers to that question, like Adam. But I'm not so sure, because sometimes I play him and he feels amazing. Sometimes I play him and he feels okay. And sometimes I build him in one way and I feel like that's the build. The next game, I try a different build, and that's the build. You know, just the hero just confuses me, basically. So I wanted to talk to you guys. What better way to clear my mind than get some pro OD opinions? First of all, worth just going over what changed.
Are you talking about F patch?
The F patch, the Phantom patch.
Yeah, because he has been changed in it. So
What?
Go on, Adam. What's happened in 7.23F?
you ask that right as I put a pizza roll in my mouth. Feels good.
Pizza party.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is Astral's 2-second longer cooldown at all levels, right?
Yeah.
Oh man!
But is that not real, or what?
Well, I feel like we've already discussed the changes in 7.22F. I think we discussed them like a year ago.
Oh no, he linked 7.22F.
No. That was actually so unintentional as well.
Damn.
I need to bring the listeners in on Marco announcing about 1 minute before we're going to pod that 7.23F has been released. Me and Adam refresh, new on Reddit Dota to try and get the link to the site, and we're like, where is this patch? You must have it before Reddit has it. That's impossible.
Yeah, Stan's like, go get some karma, get the post on.
Yeah, like quickly post this link. And then it's only after I've read through the entire 7.22F patch log, because none of them are obvious. None of them made me think, wait a second. So only after reading all of them and thinking, wait a second, why is Mars being nerfed? Why is Alk being nerfed? I swear he's not even all this. And then it's like, wait a second, that's what's going on. This is 7.22F. So there you go. That's a nice little insight for the listeners into the slick and competent workings of New Meta Podcast.
Here we are. We were gonna debut the new patch.
Yeah.
Look how we spoke ahead of time. We got the jump.
Yeah, we know Astral's being nerfed 2 seconds.
Turns out we're like a year too late.
But OD did get changed a lot in 7.23. The main changes were quite drastic. So the Equilibrium spell, his E, was changed back to the old... I can't even remember what it was called, but it's now called Essence Flux.
Was it Essence something in the past?
I think so, yeah. Essence Aura? I think it was just like Essence Aura, wasn't it? Because it was an aura. It's not an aura anymore. It used to be an aura for the whole team.
Yes.
They had a chance to get their mana back or whatever. So that was changed so that the active component just slows on attack, but it passively gives a 20, 30, 40, 50 max mana restore as a percentage, and a 25% chance to do that. So it's like the old mana aura function. They also changed the Q to not be splash, so that hurts his farming a lot, obviously. They also changed his ult so that the damage wasn't a function of OD's intelligence versus the enemy's intelligence. It's now a function of OD's max mana versus the enemy's max mana. And to complement that change, Arcane Orb now steals mana pool, I think, or gives OD extra mana pool for each hit. So a lot of complicated changes, and it was one of those where there's a lot of numbers involved, like Sanity's Eclipse calculator, and it's very complicated to compare the two, so it's one of those where you really had to test it out. And I remember when they first changed OD's Essence Aura to be Equilibrium, and OD was considered absolute dog trash for a long time. And it was kind of the same story here when they first changed it back. OD was really low win rate, people didn't know what to do with it. It's really hard to manage your mana, because with the Equilibrium, you would Astral Imprison someone, or just a creep wave. Then you'd press E, so that the Equilibrium active would be over the end of Astral. All of that magic damage would burst your mana back up to full, even with like level 1 Equilibrium. But now with the passive E, you've got to really manage your mana well, and even buy mana regen until you've got higher levels of Essence Flux. So the hero's been changed a lot in that way. That's basically the gestalt, if you will. And now I'm sort of wondering if OD's back, because I feel like he is. Adam, I said earlier, is OD good? I wonder what your opinion is on this and why. What has been the sort of the result of those changes? How has OD played now, and what makes him good? I presume in your mind.
I feel like so he goes different items, but the end result's the same. He just 2-shots you. Maybe he 4-shots you, but
yes,
yeah. The right click. The right click just seems way better, even though it doesn't splash. I mean, it's worse farming, but damn, it just doesn't really matter what hero you are. You just kind of explode.
Definitely, yeah. The Q is more damage late game. That is for certain. The Q is more damage late game. It's harder to get there, but if you do get there in good shape, it's even more outrageous than it was before in terms of the Q damage. The ult damage is less, though. Certainly at level 3, they recently nerfed that so that the multiplier is the same at all levels. So you don't necessarily get 1 shot by the ult, but you'd certainly get 4 shot by the Q in the later stages of the game.
Is everyone building Aether Lens?
Well,
everyone's building Ags.
Yes. Everyone's building Ags. Some people are building Aether Lens. The reason for this, for those of you that don't know, is because OD's ult is a function of his max mana pool. Aether Lens is the cheapest item in terms of giving a boost to mana. It gives 450 mana, which is a huge, huge amount. That's more than Bloodstone gives, by the way. So that's more than Octarine Core gives if you don't take into account the extra intelligence you get.
That's
so just the mana.
2 more damage from his level 4 Arcane Orb as well.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Like 11, 10% of mana.
And also Aether Lens, it buffs up, I think, what's an incredibly underrated spell, which is Astral Imprisonment. This spell is such insane value, and being able to cast it with extra range is really huge, especially if you're building into Ags, which you almost certainly are, because, as Adam said, this is the new build, for sure. I feel confident in saying that Ags is firmly in OD's repertoire. This basically gives him 2 charges of Astral Imprisonment, and it increases his range even more. Does anyone know what the increase in range is with Ags? I think it's 300.
Yeah, it is.
Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think it's 300. Marco, this is a difficult question, so I don't know if you have a good answer, but the Ags hasn't changed, if I recall correctly. It's the same Ags that it was pre-Outlanders.
Yeah.
Is it just, do you think, the fact that it gives mana, so now it's good? Because it doesn't really give that much, 175. Or do you think people are like, wait a second, Astral Imprisonment is actually an insane spell, having 2 charges is insane?
Wait, how much mana does Ags give? Because wouldn't it be more than... It's 10
175 based purely on the point booster.
But then you get the staff as well.
10 and 2.
Yeah.
Which would be 200 from the staff.
Is that right? You get 200 for 10 int
times 20. Sounds right, Adam?
Whoa.
I mean, yeah,
I know it's 20 HP per strength. I don't know what it is for int.
I'm pretty sure it's the same for int.
Go on, talk about...
But yeah,
I'll
I think
check while you're talking.
Those 2 points come together to make that, to push Ags into this. Okay, it's a tier 1 item for OD now, because having Aether Lens and having... That just synergizes so well with having 2 Astral Charges. In addition, you get that really nice mana pool from the Ags, so that's buffing your damage, buffing your ult. So I feel like because of those 2 positive changes, in conjunction or enough to push it into this must-buy territory, I feel like if there wasn't that mana pool synergy, or if there wasn't the Aether Lens naturally going really well, the 2 charges of Astral, I don't think it necessarily would be the must-buy, but both together make it really strong.
Also, you get more things to cast, right? So more Essence Flux procs.
Yeah,
right?
I mean...
And then also... you get charges for casting Astral Imprisonment on a hero. Charges for the ult or whatever. The sanities. So I don't even know how it works.
Wait, what do you mean charges?
If you cast Astral Imprisonment on a hero, you get 3 charges towards Sanity's Eclipse. I guess you steal some of their mana, right?
Yeah, some of their mana pool. So, yeah.
So that's like you get 1 for every Q you put on somebody. You get 3 for every W. So if you have 2 Ws, you can keep astraling and gaining charges. You can use astral offensively, but you also have one for defense. And this says charge counter. Eclipse increases Outward Devourer's max mana with each charge and its buff. 1 charge. I mean, how much mana per charge?
40.
40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
So you're stealing at max, you're stealing 180. Or you're gaining 180. I don't know if you're stealing it, but you're gaining 180, so it's like a 180 difference between you and a hero. So
okay. I was going to ask, is there any...
Which gives you more Q damage as well.
Right.
Okay, so
it's like an ultimate item. It's giving damage, it's giving survivability, it's giving cast range and extra charge. And that synergizes with your passive.
And another thing that synergizes is Astral Imprisonment oftentimes synergizes with itself. And by that I mean you can Astral Save yourself and then immediately Astral Save yourself again. Twice as survivable. You know, you can Astral Save a hero that they're going on in whatever, Chrono. And I know that Astral, length is longer than the amount of time Chrono is. But you can just do it again if the hero's in the same hero. You know, it doesn't have to be save this hero, unsave another hero, or remove this hero from the fight, remove another hero from the fight.
Yeah, you can just 8 seconds of self-save.
Or 8 seconds of complete hero removal. Imagine if there's a team fight and you astral, the enemy carry PA, and then you just astral them again. That's 8 seconds that they're just doing nothing, and you can clean up everything else. And you've got super high long range, so you can... It's not like you've got a babysit waiting next to the hero you're astraling. You can do stuff and come back because you've got long range. To go back to the mana per int, it's 12 mana per point of intelligence. So 10 would be 120 for a staff. So yeah, that's definitely worth mentioning. That's quite a lot more than just the base 175.
Yeah. Oh man, the cast range from the Ags to the Astral is mad. Because you're nearly doubling it. It's 450 at level 4, then you slap on 300 from the Aghanims. And then I feel like if you had a Dragonlance as well, which meant you could right-click...
Or if you had an Aether...
And then you've got an Aether with buffing up that Astral.
250.
Again, you're just a turret from the backlines, disabling enemy heroes, saving allies, and then just pumping right-clicks.
Yes. It's crazy.
It seems like,
the range is obscene. And also, it really changes the way you play against OD. I played against an OD that also Keen Optic as well, which increases your spell cast range. That's very common. I played against an OD who had Keen Optic and Ags. He didn't even have Aether Lens. He just had those two. And he was astraling me from way further away than I was expecting. And it really catches you out. You know, if you get astraled, say if there's a gank happening, they smoke into your jungle or whatever, you get astraled from way further away. That's just a huge buff. I mean, it seems obvious, but it's an instant disable. It's not like some leaner stun where you can quickly force or jump away. If you get astraled, it's a hard disable and the rest of the team comes over and you're dead. So having the extra cast range is super, super huge in those kinds of situations. And like you say, it means you can play on the backlines more. So that's interesting. Another point that's mildly interesting, I think, about OD is Blink has really fallen away as an item on this hero. The first pages of guides on Dota Buff tell a story. There's one game where a Blink is purchased out of the 6 on this page. And Blink certainly is still an item you can go for, but I think because of the increases in the range that we've been talking about, it's less important. When you've got a big part of getting Blink is being able to Blink Astral someone. When you've got an extra 300 range and 2 charges, that becomes much less important.
Yeah, it's a massive buff that you don't need the Blink anymore because you can just walk into a fight and Astral from so far away.
Definitely.
That's such a benefit.
Let's talk more about items then. I'll come back to skill build. I've written here Blink versus Force. I think we've already kind of answered that one. I think when you don't have to build the Blink, having a Force that can turn around into a Pike is really good. I personally would recommend Force Staff in lower MMR games to be built on OD. If you're sort of 4k or below, just get Force Staff first item on OD and you're going to have a great time because the amount of utility you get from a Force in these games just to save yourself. It's like it's just like an idiot-proof item. I always feel like when I go Force, my game is just a lot easier. So even though you don't see it often in these high MMR games and in the guide section of Dota Buff, I would still put more value on that item than pros would. Also because your supports won't be building it because they don't realise it's just not built as much as it should be in lower games. So just get a Force on your OD and you're going to be laughing. On top of that, obviously it turns into Hurricane Pike, which is nice to have.
How did you find farming with him? Because obviously he seems to have his late game much stronger, and like we say, doesn't need as much to be a beast. Just getting ags, and it's like, let's go. But what do you feel about the farming in the early game?
It's definitely worse. What I would say about the farming is it comes down. The difficult part is managing your mana before you've got high levels of E. When you get to Essence Flux to level 3, you can pretty much just have Q forever. You know, it's like the old OD, you just have Q on after a while and just forget about it. And that is definitely the same here. When you get level 3 Essence Flux, you can just have Q on forever. And then farming is fine because the damage is higher to the single target. So even though it doesn't splash, it's not that drastic of a loss. What I would say is you can't really farm big ancient stacks like you used to be able to. So some of that recovery is bad. So the actual farming from a equal position or a position of being ahead, I think is absolutely fine. Because you've got high levels, you're doing well. But if you get behind, then I think it's really detrimental. So I would say he's much more of a snowbally hero than he was. Because he's stronger relatively when he's ahead and weaker relatively when he's behind compared to the old OD.
Yeah, I feel like he's less self-reliant now. He needs... Is that the right way? My brain's like dead. He needs to rely on his team a bit more because he can't just AFK farm. And he's just not good enough in his kit to do that anymore. So
you can't
now
just
you farm heroes.
Yeah, you've got to be farming heroes or you've got to be getting ganks.
I agree, definitely. That time where in the past you could have say, my lane's not going great, I'm just going to stack this ancient stack like 4 times and then farm it with a shrine or whatever. That is now, I need to find a kill with my Sanity's Eclipse at level 6, whereas before you didn't really have to do that. So it's little adjustments like that.
For me, I don't actually need to adjust because I never played this AoE splashy OD. I think I played it about once. The last time I played OD, I feel, was at the York Showdown, and for the quals I played it a couple times, and then at the event. I remember in the game I played it and having really crap farm in the first 10 minutes and getting flamed a little bit, but then rotating top and you get kills and you get stuck in and you start snowball.
Yeah, you lift the trophy at the end of it. Just
old OD.
Subtle flares. In terms of skill build, this is an interesting one because you're maxing W, that's a given. You're leveling your ult, that's a given. You're taking your level 10 talent at 10, that's a given, although which one you take is not guaranteed. I almost always take 20 attack speed, but you can sometimes take the health if you want. Like I've seen it a little bit, and sometimes it's warranted, but almost always, probably like 85% of games, you're going to want that attack speed. So then it just becomes an argument of when do I level my Q, when do I level my E? What's never changing is the fact that you're going WE level 2, and almost always you're going WEW. Beyond that, you're probably always getting Q at level 4, Astral again at 5, ult at 6, Astral again at 7, and then level 8 is where it gets interesting. Do you get a second point in Q? Do you get a point in E? The way I've been doing it is getting a second point in Q at 7, but then maxing E and leaving it on 2 points of Arcane Orb. I don't know if that's good. I think there's definitely an argument for leaving 1 point in Q, and there's definitely an argument for leaving, say, leveling out 1 by 1 on each, say going EQ, EQ, EQ. So I'm not sure on that one. I think people are starting to realise that the best thing to do farm-wise is to just max E, because it means you can leave Q on, and that's having permanent level 1 Q is better than having intermittent level 3 Q, say for example, for farm speed. I presume you guys don't particularly have a thought on that, because it's kind of something you've got to play OD a fair bit to have an opinion of, I suppose.
Yeah, feel it out when you play it, but I feel like I always would lean to more levels in the essence and at max leave 1 in the queue, just for that rare occasion where you're hitting an enemy hero and you want that little bit extra damage. Otherwise, I feel, isn't it level 3 essence that you are self-sufficient for sure?
Depends what level of Arcane Orb you've got. If you've got level 4 Arcane Orb, then no. It's one of those where you need kind of like equal level in each to be sufficient, but like not really, because you can't sustain level 1 Q with level 1 E.
Yeah, I would always have at least 1 more in. I'm feeling like you get it to 3 and then go back to 2, then maybe 4, then 3.
And then 3. Yeah. I think so. I think that's very reasonable. It's kind of minor, but at the same time, you don't want to mess it up and get too much in queue, and suddenly you have to go back to base because you've got no mana. Like, that is really grim.
I'd definitely say, err on the side of caution and just get more conservative with the essence flux. If you don't have mana and you turn up to a fight and you've kind of fucked your mana usage up on some neutrals, say, you can't use a W or you can't get a big slap level 2 hammer off, it can seriously shaft your game. That happened with us in the last time you played OD.
That was the old OD with Equilibrium.
Yeah.
If I've been farming without Equilibrium, then I'm useless. So yeah. Anything else we want to say on OD?
I would just say that having more points in the essence also sustains the W, which is or the Astral, which is the way that you're AoE farming now. So I think I would agree to err on the side of more essence than more Arcane Orb.
I would also say, if you're going to play OD, then think about jungle stacking and get good at doing that, because that's the way that you're going to keep a good pace of farm with the OD.
Yeah, and it's a hero that you can, after a while, you just push the lane out, and then with a W, when you've got sort of level 3 W, you just prep the range creep one time, you hit one creep, so it's like 3/4 health, Astral it, hit the others, and Bob's your uncle. You're laughing.
Have you noticed the essence flux active at all? Like I feel like I've never really noticed that. I've always just died in 2 hits, so it doesn't matter that you're slowed by 44%. But
I certainly played new OD at least twice without pressing it.
Because people blow up too fast.
Yeah. What was that spell that Marco never
Anti-mage.
used? Oh, the anti-mage spell shield.
Spell shield, yeah.
Right. The Lincoln's Lotus double the sickest spell that he's got. Yeah. One last thing on OD actually is just the heroes. Oh, actually, forget that. We're at 50 minutes. Let's go to SF. Everyone knows the heroes that OD's good against and that he's bad against. He's really good against heroes like Ember.
And he's really good against ant heroes now too. Like, I saw him 2-shot a puck. It's like, like what? It doesn't matter about the hero. Like, you're supposed to stack the energy boosters or whatever, I guess, to try and live. I don't know what the blue orb, stack blue orbs to just try and live, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Build Halberd. That's actually what you do.
Then he just hammers you. It doesn't matter.
It's true. Although it is nice that it doesn't burn your mana. I like that.
Yes, that's
you actually
nice
can play the game, so that's good.
That's a reasonable change as well. It doesn't need to do
that. Always
that
such a feels bad. That was just like, and it's gone. Oh, like I'm going to line up this ability and all my mana's gone and now I'm dead.
Let's spend a little bit of time on Shadow Fiend, because this is another hero that I feel the big change is his ult now fears. And to give more specifics on that, it for every line of his ult, which I suppose is every soul, that fears for 0.8 seconds, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm reading that correctly. So that's all. That's the only change I believe that SF has. They didn't move both of his passives into one like we were hoping, but they did do that. Adam, what's happened to SF? Because you were, again, like so many other times, the prophecy here that Shadow Fiend was going to see somewhat of a resurgence, I suppose, with these changes. What do you think's the headlines?
I think the ult is good now. I think it's just like a nice buff. It lets you, if you're really close, if you don't one-shot somebody, you're still going to get the max. The max fear is 2.4 seconds. And if you're really close to someone and don't kill them, but you fear them for 2.4, I think you do line up a pretty easy double raise. So Definitely. That should be a kill off of a person. The only other thing that's like this is Ag's TB, and
the most
it's actually
Ags in the game.
Yeah, the AoE fear is a big range, and even if you catch someone with only one line, you can mess up so much about what they're trying to do to you. You can mess up channels or like spell, movement abilities, like anything that someone's trying to do something to you and they like come in. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't do the 50% damage reduction now, but I think this is better because it's team fight control. And I think, he's like really good now with like Drow and Venge. So like always, but now it's like different. Right now it's what's different now? Like the Venge passive is giving, instead of flat damage percentage, just giving like
range and agility.
Yeah, old Luna. So it's giving him range and agility, and then Drow is giving agility close by still, correct?
Wait, does Venge give agi? Does Venge give primary attribute?
Venge gives primary attribute and increased attack range.
Yes.
Luna gives damage percentage now.
Yes.
On passive. And then Drow is still giving agi, but only close by, I feel like.
Yeah.
So those three heroes combined, I mean, you can just attack from really far away and really fast. And I don't know, I kind of like it. I think people still do like the magic-y, like if we go the cooldown reduction at 25 and like the move speed and stuff. I still am a fan of presence effects buildings because I like killing buildings, but I do like the ult quite a bit now. It's pretty fun to disrupt fights that way.
Yeah, it really can't be understated what you said. The lesser known or the lesser thought of things like you said, disrupting people that just get hit by one on the edge of a fight. I was playing against an SF as a Venge, and I'd be running into the fight to cast my stun. Suddenly, a point, I'm about to cast it, say, I'm really close to being in range. Suddenly the SF hits me with just one soul. It's a 0.8 second fear, which is better than a 0.8 second stun because you're actually walking away from the fight, oftentimes. So it's like the equivalent of, say, I don't know, a 1.5 second stun, probably, in terms of the amount of time it takes you to
turn
get
back around.
Yeah, and get back there. That's huge in an AoE like that. It's really, really big. And like you said, exactly, if you use and don't quite one-shot them, it's an easy double raise, which is going to be a kill almost, always. So that puts more reason to just go magic, like you say. So yeah, definitely I agree with everything you said on that SF.
And if you're 15 and you have the movement speed talent plus 30, if they get caught by fear, you're gone. Because I've seen a lot of SF in my games, and Blink seems pretty common. I mean, that's always been kind of common, but all you need is just like that extra 1.5 seconds to blink out. I mean, you're just like, Shadow Fiend got out again. And that fear definitely gives you that extra. I mean, you can be so ballsy with it now.
Interestingly, at the Singapore event, Shadow Fiend's doing really poorly. I think it's 5-13, someone in the Discord shared with us, which is like a sub 30% win rate. So
yeah, I saw that.
You are punished for dying still.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've not seen any of the game. I've seen a handful of highlights. We've been watching EG and Alliance, but never seen a Shadow Fiend appear. I do think that the same problems of its laning is probably going to come in, and like you say, it gets punished still. And yeah, he's now a bit more useful in a team fight, but just because that one ultimate in a team fight now is more valuable, still isn't really picking up his weaknesses elsewhere.
I think he's a hero that certainly is more able to be countered in pro games because, like you say, the laning. There are a lot of heroes that love laning against SF, and a lot of popular pro heroes like, say, TA comes to mind immediately. But even a hero like Kunkka is going to do fine against Shadow Fiend mid. SF's bad against OD as also. He's also bad against a hero like Drow, who's popular as well.
It makes you think, what's he good against? It feels like you're never going to get to your last pick and go, oh, Shadow Fiend just wrecks this hero. It feels like there'll always be someone else that does that.
Mm.
Yeah.
He's good at being ahead of where other heroes are early in the game. And I think with his strength in the game, you can really take over outposts early, and then he really likes experience. So if I was a Smurf, I would play SF, because you could just snowball the game out of control. And a level 15 SF with a couple items is probably one of the highest damage dealing physical and magical heroes in the game. And then you can kind of just collapse the map. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely punished.
He's punished in pro games, but I think you get away with it in pubs. In pubs, how punished are you going to be in lanes? Obviously not as punished. And like you say, you can do a lot more farming in pubs just in general. Also, another thing is, we talked about what changed. Well, his ult changed. It's on a 120 second cooldown at level 1. So in pros, it's like, yeah, how much value can you get out of a buff to your 120 second cooldown spell? But in pubs, that's a big significant thing because people don't play around cooldowns as well. Coordination isn't as good. So, we really need to SF Requiem's down or whatever. Like, that's never something that's being said in pubs. But in pro games, it will be. So that's something that you have to look out for more. To add on to that as well, pubs, more individualistic kind of play. So getting a Yule's pick off into ult is going to be easier because heroes are going to be by themselves a bit more. It just seems like it's more suited for pubs in general.
He's quite good at outpost contesting too, I think.
Because
AoE abilities. Yeah. I mean, you can interrupt the channel with your ult, but it's like you can get good ults off even if you aren't trying to interrupt the channel.
You get good raises off.
Yeah, the raises are really nice.
The classic thing with SF is if you put yourself in a position to be triple raised, you're going to die probably. And what better way to get a triple raise when you know a hero is going to be right next to an outpost because they're trying to channel it. So, yeah, forcing a hero to be in a specific place, that's good for SF. Another thing I would say about SF that's kind of dangerous is I presume he's bad against Puck just because Leash kind of wrecks him. He's not a hero that wants to be locked down. And it's like we've talked about before when we've talked about SF. He's a hero, when I play him, I feel like I have to go BKB really early. And if I don't, I just become a complete non-factor and just chain die. That sort of stuff is still the same. So against a hero like Puck or lots of disable, you are quite squishy in the circumstance. So...
one thing I completely forgot about, we didn't really talk about OD either, is these two heroes are good on neutral items. I mean, we talk about Keen Optic on OD, but I don't know, Grove, the bow, the two bows are really good on both of these, the level 2 bow and the level 3 bow. I mean, they can really make use of some of these drops, really strong, extra attack range on SF and OD is crazy, especially the level 3 bow that gives you 300 off of one attack with magic damage. I'm trying to think of other solid neutral items that are good on these heroes.
Ironwood Tree is pretty good on OD because Int is good on OD. 7 Int for 150 gold, that's pretty strong.
Aquila.
Sure, Aquila on SF, yeah, sure. Yeah, there's so many. I still can't remember all the neutral items. So I'm trying to think in my head which ones there are, but I can't remember. And we mentioned outposts. SF's a hero. Yule's, because of the new ult, is sort of a must build because it's just way easier to land the combo for the reasons we said. And another sort of choice I've written down here is power treads versus travels. Marco, would you, if you were playing SF and you hadn't abandoned the game in the laning stage, would you build brown boot Yules into travels, or do you think PTs is still an item you want to go for? Because I'm starting to think you build it like I build my Lena, where you just go brown boot Yules travels.
I feel like it's too game dependent. I do like the power tread pickup, and I like the what's that word, like the balance of a right clicker versus a pure magic damage dealer. Because we said, in this 10 to 15 minute period when you've got max souls, the power tread's giving you the gloves of haste and that bit more damage from Agi really, really ramps your damage up. And then you get the Yules because you go for that magic synergy. I like that balanced approach as opposed to just, I'm not going to be ever right clicking, so I'll just stick with brown boots and I'll get my blink BOTs. I'm not into that one as much. I feel like when you go too heavy into the magic side, if it doesn't work and it doesn't pull off, then the game's over because you're now useless and the enemy team's got too much gold XP, the items to survive you, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I feel like if you go PTs, like a Wraith Band with your Yules, drums maybe, meaning that you can get to a fight and right-click in a fight, and then also do that magic shenanigans, I feel like that is the more reliable way to build the hero and play the hero.
Yeah,
then
point.
Also,
I'm convinced.
Boots of Travel are OP in 7.23. I think, but to be honest, something I've been thinking in recent games is in the late game or mid to late mid game, I'm thinking selling boots to buy a Boots of Travel could be more value for particularly for tempo heroes. That could be more value than actually another item, just for the the map mobility.
No, I'm just telling it. I'm getting spider legs, bro. Thinking of that spider legs drop. Yeah.
We've talked about Greaves SF. Is this just, where does this fit in? Does it fit in anywhere, or is
probably can still do it? I feel like it's someone else can build it now. Kind of like it just feels wasted on him a bit.
I agree. I think in this meta where everyone knows how good Greaves is because they've been listening to New Meta Podcast, you can build it on another hero. You know, there's Venges and Maranas reaching out and getting Greaves now because of the extra farm you can get on 4s. So it feels, you know, these marginal Greave building cores, sometimes I feel like you can get away with pushing it down to the 4 or the 3 at least, you know. So maybe the SF Greaves is dying away. With that said, I do maintain if you're a lower MMR player trying to climb, you could do a lot worse than just building Greaves every game. And you'll
that
genuinely.
True. Yeah, that's true.
It's like genuinely, if I went to low MMR, I think I could just pick Viper and build Greaves every game, and I'd climb pretty well. Although, certainly old Viper, new Viper's another story, but there you are. If in doubt, Greaves, I think, is somewhat of a good motto, even when you're playing Shadow Fiend.
You could go boot build and just have treads, bots, Greaves, spider legs,
the Striders.
The Woodland Striders.
Yeah,
that's
Force
5.
Boots.
Force Boots, there you go.
And then Boots of Travel 2 in the backpack, even though you've already got Boots of Travel 1. Final thing to say about SF, final thing to say in the episode really, is just when to pick him. Because we mentioned he's weak in lanes, there are certain heroes that he struggles against. Do you think SF is strong enough in a pub setting that you can pick him when you don't have 10th pick? And if so, what kind of things are you looking for? What kind of things would you be scared of?
I think you really need setup and control from your team. Like Earthshaker's the classic, I feel, with Shadow Fiend, where there's just someone to help him lock down that hero, then Shadow Fiend to get that damage off from the razors. Also, he's a hero that can provide protection to the Shadow Fiend. I feel like enemy teams want to be aggressive into the Shadow Fiend, particularly in the early lane-in, because he is a really weak laner in terms of being susceptible to ganks. So I feel like you do really need some defensive spells and heroes on your team. And then in the mid-game, when you're this beast, powerful guy, I feel like you need to get stuff done with your power spike relative to the rest of the game. And I feel like you need your team to enable that for you, because I don't think you can rely on yourself just walking in and finding a triple kill. I feel like you do need your team to offer some, lockdown, disable. And then on the enemy team, you should be wary for relatively aggressive heroes that can get on you, say.
And to put an example on that, I would think something like if I had 9th pick mid, or if the enemy team had 10th pick, I wouldn't pick SF, say, into a Tusk, probably. And I'd be scared to pick it into a Tiny if I thought the Tiny was position 4. That's another reason why SF's got a low win rate in pros, is because Tusk and Tiny are the only 2 position 4s being heavily picked at the moment. Tusk's had a real resurgence, and Tusk is an SF's worst nightmare in the mid lane, really, because he's so susceptible to ganks. So heavy roaming, heavy ganking position 4s is something to be very wary of when you're playing Shadow Fiend. But if they've got a position 4 Enigma, then your quid's in. So there you are.
Heroes that can gap close is what you really want to be wary of.
Bloodseeker.
Yeah, if heroes get onto Shadow Fiend, he's got nothing to stop them just munching him. And he's got an ult, but it doesn't take much to stop the ult getting off. And so
he wants to go on people. He doesn't want to get gone on. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
And then you can't get your raises off if people are in your face, because you can get 1 raise, but you now can't do half your spells. You do need to have that movement to be free to use your spells and to not die too quickly, because he's not super tanky, really.
No, he did get a little strength buff, but that's what I like about the ult, is that SF's wildest dream is people running from him, and that's what you're doing, is getting people just to run from you. Like, that's what you love, live for. Someone like try and go on you, you hit them with that short raise, and they're like, oh, I actually don't want to be any part of this. And you're like, well, you've already made a big mistake. About to get that medium and long raise. Yeah.
Let me check Shadow Fiend's win rate. So on his page in DotA buff, it says 48.5? Oh no, 49.5. I don't know how far in the past that's taken from, because I'm getting very different figures. On his page in DotA buff, it says 49.5, which is good. When you go to win rates over the last month, it's like 46.5. And when you go to Divine Plus in the last month, it is 45.8. So I don't know what it is, but I think it's pretty good. It's definitely worth trying, because it's very fun. Like,
it's a cool hero.
It's a cool hero, yeah. It's the 1v1 mid hero, man. That's as much as you need to know. If you win games on Shadow Fiend, you're a cool guy. That much we can say for sure.
Shadow Fiend with an Apex. Pew, pew, pew. Maybe that's not even the best tier 5 item on him. Maybe it's the pirate hat. I don't know.
Maybe it's the Seer Stone. And actually, no, that wouldn't make any difference, would it?
What is Seer Stone?
It gives the crazy cast range. I don't think that makes any difference.
Your short raise would be really long, right? All of them would be 400 cast range longer.
Yeah, I don't think so. That would be fun if it worked like that, but I don't think it does. All of your souls went further with Requiem.
What if Ags gave you a 4th raise that was even longer? That'd be sick.
Yeah, I'd be so up for that. That'd be so
quad
fun.
Raise.
Yeah, quad raise. That'd be sick. I wish he had a 25 talent where raise was like behind you and to the sides as well. Like, it was 4 raises when you pressed it once.
You know, like a
AoE
Pango.
Raises. Yeah, like Pango. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's episode 60 whatever, 60 something, 68. Join us again next week. Don't have a teaser for you because we've done OD now, so there's nothing left.
Week's time is Boxing Day.
Oh, is it? Okay, so there might be
Boxing Day.
I don't know what the pod situation will be like over Christmas, because we'll be in different places.
We missed out on all the Frostivus chit-chat.
Oh, God, yeah.
Cured,
and the Ogre Arcana, yeah. We didn't do an Ogre Arcana review. The listeners are going to be rioting.
I will say you get like 2 free tips a day that say nice play, those are very fun. Someone messes up, you just hit them with a nice play.
Yeah, those are definitely going to be used properly in the manner that Valve intended. Until then,
happy holidays. Happy Frostivus.